So the first step in installing Windows 11 is to power off your machine, as I did. So in my case I have a laptop, but if you have a desktop it's not gonna be a problem. It should look quite the same thing, a powered off machine. Second thing that you'll need is an USB flash drive with Windows 11 on it. And right now we're gonna say, hey, why aren't you like filming the display, like making a display capture, and why are you showing the whole computer? Most tutorials out there on the internet do not show this step. They do not show you how to change the boot order in order to boot from the USB stick. And that's important because only with the software side you can go as far as nowhere, because it doesn't boot and it goes back into your old operating system. So I'm gonna show you that. For that we're gonna power on the PC, but make sure you have the USB plugged in first. Why is this? Because if you do not plug it now, it will not recognize it and you'll have to restart the computer again in order to see it in boot order menu. Now if I power it on and I spam the F2 key a little, this works for Asus laptops. Depending on the manufacturer it might be F8, F10, F12. It's different for every other manufacturer, you'll find it on the internet. You'll hit this UEFI BIOS where you have mouse control. Of course, on other devices you have text-based BIOS. It's not that different. So what you need to do is to go into boot order menu, but if you press this button, for example on Asus, you cannot change the order from here. You have to go back, you have to go into advanced mode. And most UEFI BIOSes look like this. So now, after going to advanced mode, it doesn't want to register my click, so I'm just going to press F7. You can go to boot, and in boot option number 1, I'm going to select this partition 1 thing. So let me just zoom in on the camera a little. And let's see if I get an autofocus. Yep, like that. And hit enter. And now that's the first boot option. See? Boot option number 1. Now I'll just exit advanced mode. And I'm gonna save and exit with F10. I'm gonna save all the settings. Now I'll zoom out again. And now the computer should not boot into our old operating system, but it should boot into the Windows 11 installer. Just give it a little bit of time. It's loading quite slow because it has to load up a lot of files from a USB stick. That is not fast in my opinion. And we have this screen. So just that I can make the camera see better, I'll pause the video a little and change the orientation of the camera. Now that I have set up the camera, let's continue with the installation. So in here I'm prompted with the language to install. So I'm just gonna hit next on American English, and now I'm gonna hit install. And this is copying some files. I'm booting this from a USB 2.0. It's a little bit slower. If I would have had a newer USB it would run faster, but this does not affect the installation itself. Now it prompts us to enter a product key. If you do have that one, feel free to add it in here, but for the purpose of this tutorial I'm not gonna do that. I do not have a product key, and I'm gonna install Windows 11 since this is okay for my needs, but you can change every one of these other options. They should work, no problem. Now you agree the license and you hit custom install, because I'm doing this from scratch. And you might see here some drives. This drive is my SSD and this drive is my hard drive. How do I know? This one is bigger, and I do know that there are two storage devices in my computer. So what I'll do, I'll format everything in here, since I want to format this in another way. So in a typical Windows installation, you do something like this. So this is my SSD, this is my hard drive. You just make a new device for the SSD, and you're gonna make a new one for the hard drive. Of course, if you want more partitions, you can do that, but you just click drive 1 in here. This is the SSD. Be careful to install Windows on the SSD because it will run faster, because it's a faster device and it will boot fast. But in my case, I want to do a dual boot afterwards, so I'm installing these for myself as well. And I'm not gonna bore you with all the decisions that I take in order to do the dual boot, but in broader terms, I'm gonna split both the hard drive and an SSD in half, so that I can also install Linux and Windows and also give them part of the hard drive. But for typical installation, this should be the case. I'm just gonna pause the video and I'm gonna format my partitions as I would have desired them. Alright? I thought this should be also good to show to you in this tutorial. How have I decided to partition my computer? So, this is the drive 1, this is an SSD. These ones are in here for Windows to run, so it has reserved some space for it to run. This is where I'm gonna install the Windows, and this I left unallocated. So about half the SSD I have left unallocated because I want to give this to Linux when I install Linux. I'm also gonna do a tutorial on that. In here, with my hard drive, since it's 1 terabyte, I split it in 3 equal parts, roughly. So this is gonna be the drive that I'm gonna use for Windows. This is gonna be a drive that I also allocated to Windows because I want to put some backups in here. Even though it would be safer to keep my files on Linux, I'll put them here because I'm more familiar with Windows and I do not want to lose any files. And this is the hard drive that I'm gonna allocate to Linux. Not so relevant for this tutorial, but maybe you want to see how I thought about this process. So I'm gonna select my SSD, which is the smaller one. I know 124 gigabytes is not really enough for Windows, but since this is a dual boot, it will be alright. And I'm gonna hit next. And now the installation has started. And we will need to wait up through all the steps. I would usually do a speedrun of how this is being recorded, but it's just gonna go from 0 to 100, 0 to 100, 0 to 100 on all of them. So I'll be back after this is done, so we do not waste anybody's time. After it has done everything for about 15 minutes on my laptop, it have prompted me with this screen. So I haven't touched anything, I haven't clicked any next or buttons. It directly went into this and I heard Cortana speak, so let me just close this so we do not hear Cortana anymore, because I think it will speak throughout this whole process. So what is the country or region? For me, it is Romania. You can select your country without any problem. So R, where are you? Here, close to Russia, both geographically and by name. So we're just gonna wait in here. So what's my input for the keyboard? Yes, it's the US keyboard. Do I want to add a second keyboard? If you're only an English speaker person, then you might not need to do this, but if you use this second language, you can also add your language now. So again, Romanian, the normal one, even though Moldavian does not have a difference from normal. Yeah, the standard one, add the layout. Here are my Ethernet services, so I will need to connect to my Wi-Fi, and for that one, let us see what I can do without pausing the video. I can put the cap into the camera so I get some privacy, so just give me a second to put in my password. Just a second. Now I'll remove the lens cap and focus a little. That should be fine. Next. Has connected to my network. I'm gonna hit next. And now it is looking for updates. I'll let it see how much this it takes. I have downloaded the Windows 10 from the Windows 11, sorry, from the Microsoft website last night, so theoretically it should be the latest version, but I do think that they do not update it on the website as often as they do release new updates, so let's just wait and see. Now it's restarting. I'll give it a little bit of time. I want to see if it boots directly into Windows or if it boots into my stick again. Because if it boots into the stick, I'll show you how to change the boot order again. So you need to boot from the SSD. Not really sure if Microsoft has solved this issue. It looks like it was smart enough not to boot from the USB stick again. It looks like it passed that one and went directly into Windows. Great. So name my device. Yeah, let's call it Peter. Hit next. Just a moment, like it needs to change everything inside the computer in order to register my name. I'm actually wondering what they are doing during these steps. Another restart. So this is what they are doing. To be honest, I'm a computer science student, so I might have an idea of what they are doing in there. I think they have to change like the name of the PC and then like all the paths, so they need a restart in order to change the name, because maybe it is just user 01 by default. This waiting is killing me, because honestly I do not have anything else to talk about while I'm doing this if it doesn't let me do anything to show to you. So it needs my Microsoft account. What if I don't want to? Can I? I cannot do that. It looks like I'll have to log into my Microsoft account as well. In this case, I do not want to show you my student ID, but in case you need it, you can just create an account. It's as simple as that. Put in your email and password, or sync it with your existing account. For this purpose now, I'm just gonna turn off the camera and log in with my student ID. So now it's doing a please wait screen. Quite sadly that it does not hide my email address, so I'll have to blur this in editing, so you see now a blank spot. But this is the inconvenience of it, so I don't want to show you my ID so you do not spam me with lots of emails. So create a pin. Let's create a pin. So I'm gonna type in a pin. So I'm gonna go like this. You do not see my keypad, but not unless you have physical access to the laptop. It doesn't matter if you see it or not. But it's loading up the pin. No, I do not want anything tailored to me. Not that I am really that paranoid about collecting data, but to be honest, I don't want to share anything with a company especially if they do not give me an advantage about it. What am I using Windows for? None of your business. You can select yes to anything, that's your choice. I will only save files to this PC, so Outlook. Especially since you saw that I'm trying to do a dual boot. I'm only using Windows for apps that only run on Windows. I want to migrate on Linux actually, because Microsoft has started to become quite an unusual company in its behavior, and I do not trust them anymore, to be honest. So if you want, you can move into Linux, and you can go to my other tutorial on how to install Linux. And this is the final screen, where we get the final preparations for this PC. Let's give it a second, and after we get into the main screen of Windows, I'm gonna call this a day, and that should be it about installing Windows. I'm also gonna do some tutorials on how to install drivers, but I do not think it has to be related to this video because it's already getting too long. Let's see how much it takes. If it doesn't do it any moment now, that you might see a little bit of speed going on now. Great! So we now have Windows 11 installed onto this PC. Thanks for tuning in with me. Let's do some focus. Some more focus. I cannot get the camera to focus on this better, but yep, as you can see, it is installed. So thanks for tuning into this video. I'll see you soon with other tutorials on this channel. Have a great day. Bye.